I remember one of them shocked me. I think it was last year, because he called me up and he's like, "Hey, Uncle Mark," and I'm sitting there going, first off, who's calling me, and why does my nephew have a cell phone? But so I was wondering how vibrant is that community, because I know that's one
Oh
of the
my
things teachers have to
God.
face is kids having cell phones,
Yeah,
and of course wanting
yeah.
to be on the cell phone. But when you're in the physical environment with them, I mean, of course on COVID they could be on cell phones, having the TV in the background, having all kinds of interruptions going on because you can only see what you see in front of you and everything. But in the classroom, I imagine that had to be a nightmare even there in the UK, trying to deal with cell phones and some of the devices that the kids were distracted by, for lack of a better term.
I mean, this. I can go on for this, Mark. Honestly, it's been the worst thing that's ever happened to human to mankind is the invention of the cell phone and the cell phone in schools. It's very disruptive. It's caused lots of problems because what happens is the communication that takes place with young people outside of school. If it's negative, that then comes into school. We're picking it up. We're dealing with it. It's the fact that sometimes the entertainment aspect, so it's because of gaming and because of the invention of Fortnite and Nintendos, and this is causing young people to just kind of be really drawn and almost addicted to kind of that form of entertainment. They're wanting to kind of get the next level. So they're constantly stimulated, and I think this is what the phone does. It just stimulates them. It just makes them completely want to find out and learn more and what's going on, and hang on, how comes I haven't got a like? Oh my God, what does that mean? If I haven't got a like for my Instagram, does that mean I'm rubbish or I'm ugly? Oh my God. So it's that this little device has caused so much mayhem in our lives as teachers in schools. But at the end of the day, I think what we do in the UK, every school has got their own kind of acceptable use policy, how they want to kind of how mobile phones are brought into school. In my school, it's 0. So my school, we've got 1,700 kids on site every single day, and they are not allowed to bring in their phones. They're not allowed to take them out. So it is, if you bring them in, they're switched off. They're in your bag, but you do not bring them out until when you leave the school gates. And what does that help the kids do? It just helps them just to have a switch off. It helps us being able to teach. It actually helps the teachers be safe, and that our own self-guarding and well-being. And it just gives them that 6 hours of their school day whereby they don't have to think about what other people are saying, what they need, what that person who they're following, their kind of Instagrammer is doing, their influencers doing. They can just be with us in a classroom learning.
Right, and I think that's something that we need more and more of. We talked about it at the beginning, but I'm not even sure that I caught that because I missed the first minute, I'll be honest, with pressing the record button. But with testing and everything, would you explain to us a little bit about the testing system in the UK and how it is similar to or different from what we go through in the US? Because I know testing is a very big issue here because we do the end of the year testing, and some people feel, like I said earlier, that the schools are gearing toward the testing, that they're teaching to the test and they're not necessarily teaching to the skills. So I was just wondering how the testing system works in the UK, and if you earlier called it the UK-US model, so it sounds like y'all are doing a similar kind of model, but I was just wondering how that works and what that means to the teacher, because I know here a lot of teachers are not the biggest fans of that, but they also want to find a way to measure what the kids are learning. So they are maybe not the biggest fans, but they also know that it is a tool that needs to be used in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my belief in assessment is, why and what are we assessing? What is the point? What is it going to give us? Is it going to give us data we already know? Is it going to make us feel brilliant as a country? Look, we're doing this. That means that we're better than the other country. I think assessment is such a crucial world. What happens in the UK is, in many countries, we assess at the end of every year, but their GCSE, their big exams for the young people, are when they're age 16 and when they're age 11. So the age 16 ones, that's the GCSE exams. And, within the space of, I'd say about 4 weeks, you've got some young people sitting 30 examinations, 30 papers. And most of those papers are 1 hour minimum. Now, why? what's the point? What are they going to, what are we trying to get them assessed by getting those kind of but by putting them through that much pressure, so by the end of July or June they're having to sit these exams. What good teaching, what good assessment should be like is continuous. So it's a type of an assessment whereby you are measuring skill sets, you're measuring abilities, you're measuring knowledge, all of these things throughout a period of time. I think that's absolutely important. But assessment, it can be really, really useful, it can be beneficial, but in my opinion, we've got to really, really rethink it, because what we've learned from COVID and the fact that we can't assess now, so schools are having to, for once ever in the United Kingdom, are having to actually give their personal professional grades to the Department of Education. I mean, that's a miracle, Mark. That's they're trusting us. They're trusting us to say, that child right there, I know that if he was to carry on in 2 months' time, he would have got an A or a B or a C or whatever. That's a big deal. But why isn't it like that? And I think we now need to really kind of go back and think about teachers' trust. The fact that our professionalism is vitally important, and ask us what our opinion of testing is. I'm sure we can come up with some way of really coming together and making a really good system for all our countries.
Yep. Just out of curiosity, well, I'm going to wrap up right now and everything, but I just had a couple of quick questions. One is, in your mind, what is some of the best countries for education? You traveled the world, you were honored as a teacher, but just in your mind, what are some of the countries that are doing it well education-wise that you would put up as the highlights of what an education model would look like? And then I'm also going to let you put on your future hat. And the future hat is going to be where, like, both in your personal life and as a teacher, where do you see yourself 5 to 10 years down the line? But also, where do you see education, say, 5 to 10 years down the line? Because I think we are seeing that COVID is getting us to change a lot of things. I had the pleasure of having Ron Thomas on, and Ron is one of the people that's been on Tree's show as well. And Ron is a business consultant and a HR person, and he was talking about the fact that he thinks that the businesses will be downsized, meaning that there will be business that might be in a 3-story building, it'll be 1 story, because you won't have to have as many people in the building, because we'll be doing online education. And I've also had a conversation with some friends of mine that are educators that are wondering, Duke is a wonderful facility and a wonderful college that is known worldwide. Same with, I would argue, UNC and definitely Harvard and some of the others. But like you said earlier, a lot of our kids are now learning online. So some of those beautiful campuses, people are wondering whether those campuses will even be the way that we think of campuses. Will they be downsized? Will these buildings be used for other things? Because there is some thought that their kids may not come back as strong as they've been in the past. So there may be not as much of a need for those big, pretty campuses. And what do you do with that property? So that's just a thought that people have had. I was just wondering, you get to put on your thought pattern, both about what you see as being good models of education, and also your thoughts of the future of education.
Thanks. This is like, for 2 minutes left. This is like, you've given me great amount of time here. Thanks, Mark. Right. I can't, there are so many great, good models, worrying models, fascinating models. I don't think there's a utopic model. I don't think there is one great system in any one country that I've ever had. I've kind of like wanted to kind of pull a little bit from Switzerland, a little bit from the UK, a little bit from Europe, a little bit from Denmark, and then mix them all together, and that would be great. I mean, but it doesn't work like that. I think for me, it's down to the countries. Actually, it's not. It's down to the schools. It's down to the individual schools to say, this is my community. This is what I think would be beneficial for my particular community. The one thing that I would like to see is that there's this kind of ambition and high expectation for the young children. So the fact that, I love the fact that in your country everyone can be a president, and that kind of mentality that everyone can, and you're not judged by where you come from, you're not judged by being raised in a slum. That's not, you can achieve. I think that's the one message that I have learnt from my own kind of school. The fact that it doesn't matter where you start, but you can succeed and achieve regardless of who you are. I think that's the kind of language. Now, in terms of the future, to be honest with you, what COVID has made me reflect on is how much students miss socializing, students miss being with young people, and the fact that actually by just learning by yourself in front of a screen, your skills, the mastering of a technique, you haven't got that one-to-one guidance which you will have instantly if a teacher was in the room. So you could be learning something thinking that is absolutely correct, because you haven't had that instant intervention which you get when you're in a classroom, that you could be making a mistake. So I think now more than ever, countries are praising and are looking forward to when the schools are going to be open, because I think the school system in its uniqueness is here to stay. And I'm really pleased about that. If anything, the thing that we've learned from the global the crisis, the fact that as teachers, the amount of different resources that we can share and you're using, that's been brilliant. Picking up resources from other countries, sharing them, having that particular platform has been invaluable to many countries, many practitioners all over the world. That's the one thing that has been really great about all this.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. You're right. We are so much social people, and teachers play a vital role in that social factor. We are social individuals. And yes, I know there are some people that are more introverted and some that might be more extroverted. But at the end of the day, I think even the introverts have some sort of socialization skills that they have in their life that makes them need that social aspect. And while I understand the concept of social distancing and try to practice it as much as myself as I can in order to flatten the curve, as they say, I do think that it's going to be interesting to see how we come out of this, because I'm on the board of the Carolina Theater, which is one of our local theaters here, 1,000-seater. And I know we've even been talking about the possibility of having like people sit 3 seats apart from each other, which means 1,000-seater becomes what, a 300-seater or things of that nature. And it's going to look much different. And the same with some of our sports. I'm not sure what y'all are doing. I don't think the soccer is going on, but I know most of our main sports are not happening at all.
Well, they're talking about virtual football. How on earth can virtual soccer? I don't know. But yeah, Saturdays have been very interesting at home, let's just say.
So folks have been actually trying to do virtual soccer or virtual sports of some sort?
I heard something on the TV. My husband was watching someone, and I heard something on Sky News. And I just thought, how is that going to be possible? Then I completely ignored it because, I just think it's going to be quite hilarious. Let's just ride it out safely. Let's just let's just carry on fundraising, supporting our national health services, supporting the key workers. Let's just do what we can just to kind of keep people safe, mindsets well, people happy, people coping, and eventually things will get back to some kind of normality. We can wait for that. Let's just look after each other first, though.
Yes, I agree. And that's what we have to do, is be concerned about the world and population. I'm glad to have you on here. Just the last question is, if you can let folks know how they can reach out to you. Don't want to flood your services with things that will distract from the educators, but at the same time, if they might want to talk to you about education or just want to reach out to you on your social media outlets or just different ways that they can reach out to you, if you want to share that, I would greatly appreciate that. And that'll pretty much wrap it up. And any final thoughts that you have or final thoughts that you want to share about education, how you're coping with COVID now and just your life, that's what I'll wrap it up as we wrap everything up. But definitely your social media and any final thoughts that you have.
So my social media is at Andria Zaf. Andria is spelled Andria, then Zaf. I'm on Twitter normally, and my contact details, I have a website, so Andria.Zafirakou. Please do visit and let me know if you've got any questions to do with teaching or the arts. And just a final message to all the teachers out there, your listeners, just to say thank you very much. We've been put through a whirlwind of having to adjust quickly, of having to change everything we know, and our world has flipped upside down. But because of you, we've got young people who are very keen and very excited to get back to work. So Thank you for what you're doing, and carry on doing what you're doing.
Definitely. Thanks a lot. And I look forward to, we'll probably air this as a special episode because that's what we've been doing with some of these Zoom calls, but I'll send you an email and let you know when that is and everything. I know I said that was the last question. I lied. But the other quick question is, as an artist, who are some of your favorite artists? Because you did mention your art teacher, and we touched on that a little bit, but we didn't talk about your favorite artist. So I know that may be a long question, but I promise that's the last question that I will ask you. So I just want to get people to get a feel for what art you are big fans of.
Oh, that's the impossible question. That's I can't give you a question because the answer to that. I go into galleries and I'm just looking at work, and there's lots of different things that inspire me.